horror retrospective show. Horror retrospective show. The horror retrospective show.
Hello, lovelies. So today I was tagged by Night Watch Zone for the Horribles tag, meaning the tag discussing the worst of everything in horror, i.e. horrible horror. It's interesting and catchy. I think that's a lot of fun, and thank you so much to Night Watch for considering me for this tag. I really appreciate that. So jumping right into this, I am going with worst werewolf film. That was pretty easy. I went with Dark Moon Rising. This is an independently produced film. I was not a fan of it. I have reviewed this one in the past, and I treated my video review more as a PSA. Please do not watch this. So the lighting is pretty bad in this one. The werewolf, you can obviously tell, is a guy running around in a furry jumper. You can see he's hunched over on all fours. It's not even a believable werewolf. Worst horror remake, question number 2. Let's see, that one, it took me a while to remember which movie I disliked the most, but I'm going to go with 2010's A Nightmare on Elm Street. I was so disappointed by that. The story was just donkey butt. I did not care for it at all. Anyway, I'm not going to get into too much more detail on that one. Question number 3, worst Stephen King film adaptation. I originally was going to go with the Tommyknockers, and then I remembered the Langoliers was so much worse. I haven't read the novel for either one, so I really don't know if it holds true, but the CG on the Langoliers it was so bad and so laughable. And for a TV movie, yeah, I know certain things are limited. I had been warned it was a bad one, and I watched it anyway, and I agree, it wasn't too good. Number 4, worst sequel. I had to give this one some thought also. I still haven't really thought up of which film I think is the worst of the worst as far as the sequels, but just for sake of giving an answer, because I couldn't think of any other film, I'm going with Pet Sematary 2. The story had potential. It could have been good. Eduardo Furlongus wasn't too believable as an evil kid. I just wasn't buying it. I have tried rewatching the film a couple of years back just to give it a second chance. No go. I do not like it. Number 5, worst Final Girl. I had to give this one some thought as well. These are really good questions. Some of these really, really made me have to stop and think, and I'm like, oh man, I don't remember which what of the what at the time that I disliked. So let's see, worst Final Girl, number 5. I went with Linda McKay, who was the final girl for Hollow Man. She was one of the people that I wanted her to get it the most. And she just didn't. I did not like the character at all. Number 6, worst mother. I had to get a little creative on this one. I didn't have too many horror film moms that I had a beef with. But on principle alone, I'm going to have to go with Aunt Martha from Sleepaway Camp, because seriously, which aunt/surrogate mother would force their nephew to be a niece just because they wanted a little girl so badly? I know, had it not been for the fabulous Aunt Martha, we wouldn't have had Angela and the Sleepaway Camp series, but to subject a child to this abuse is just so messed up. Number 7, worst villain. This one was also a tough one, and I had to get creative with my answer on this one, so I went with Stu from Scream, not because he was a bad villain, but more of like Billy Loomis's lackey. Even he gives that BS response towards the end of the film, peer pressure. Nothing against Matthew Lillard. I think he's a good actor. I just had to fill in a slot for the question, so no hard feelings. Number 8, worst kill. This one was pretty easy. I have to go with Nail Gun Massacre. It's a low budget or independent film ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There really isn't a death in particular that I would pinpoint as the worst, but it has some pretty bad ones. You have people that that died just from getting shot in the hand by a nail gun. Number 9, worst franchise. I had to go the indie route on this one also. I'm going to go with the Robert films, so the haunted doll. Puppets really aren't too believable. It just looks more like a doll that somebody's moving about. They didn't even use stop motion, in my opinion. I think the movies had potential. They could have been a lot better. I like killer doll movies, but this just was not the one. And they made 4. They did not stop at the first one. Why? I don't know if there was a 10th question. I didn't catch it. Those would be my worst of the worst picks for the Horribles tags. And if this is still an ongoing tag, so I would tag Anthro. I would go with Deacon just because he's pretty clever and sarcastic. I would go with Trashed Picture Show Ethel as well. I don't know. You guys are a fun group of people. I would really love to see what you guys come up with on this one. But of course, if you haven't been tagged, always feel free to do so. That is all I have for you guys for today, and I will talk to you later.